Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell of the Scottsdale Police Department. With me is Ms. Chris Vassallo, our Community Liaison.
Hello, everybody.
How are you doing?
I'm very hot right now.
And you know
These
what?
bugs are killing me today.
And here we are in September, right? Oh, it's
yeah,
the lights.
and I don't have my
Okay,
fan with
yeah.
me, so I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. We're
Good.
still in 100-degree temperatures. I thought
I
maybe you were
know.
still experiencing the outside.
I probably was. I was out there a few minutes before I came up. But yeah, no, it's getting better though. Don't you think it's getting better?
It's 105 today.
I think it's getting better.
Yeah.
It's psychological. It's getting
Okay.
better.
I hear you. So anyway, so here we are. School has started.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about schools.
The kids
and
are
the
back
program.
in school.
We're going to talk about that. That's the primary focus of our program today. Before we get started, though, we have a couple things coming up as far as the organization is concerned with our Citizens Academy.
Yes, it starts September 6th, but the class is full.
Oh, it's
already
full.
It's already sat.
Oh,
so
wow,
you'd have
okay.
to wait till March, the March through April session.
Okay. So once again, if you're interested in participating in the Citizens Academy, and it's free, you would go online and you would register.
Right, or just email me and I can get you the information. And cvasal at scottsdaleaz.gov and I can get you the application and everything.
And the department's been doing this for, I guess, almost 29 years now.
At least
Long time,
I was
right?
teaching, I was teaching in about 30 years ago when Legault was doing it. So yeah, we've been doing it a really long time.
What was Legault? Was that like a conquistador or something?
It's
What was it?
Lieutenant Legault.
Oh, okay. I didn't
So
know.
we call each other by our last name.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
yes,
And-
sorry,
and-
Lieutenant Legault. He's still alive too, so if he's watching,
Oh my
he'll
goodness,
be mad.
he's one of the people watching.
Lieutenant.
So, anyway, so the reason I say that is because the classes do fill up.
Oh my
and
gosh,
so if you are
so
interested,
fast.
you probably need to look at.
Yeah, and I will hold the applications now for March. So they don't need to wait until January to send it to me. You can send it to me now. I actually have like about 3 or 4 applications on file already for the spring session.
Okay. So here we are in September. It'll start getting a little cooler, as we mentioned, and chances
Hopefully.
are pretty good we'll start seeing people moving back into our neighborhoods
Yes.
as a result of the winter visitors or the folks that actually stay here throughout the winter.
Right.
So we'll start seeing a little more traffic on our roads,
There
right?
is more traffic.
I've
I would
seen
say
already.
there's a lot more. And with all the building on the 101 on the reservation there off of Pima, I mean, all those people come to work there and everything. You can see quite an uptick in traffic both on Pima and the freeway.
So leave with plenty of time.
Absolutely.
Be patient and drive courteously, and this translates into our program actually.
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about school safety.
Yes,
right?
we are.
Want to introduce our guests?
No, I think you should do it, Chief.
It's an inside joke.
Yes.
Anyway, so our first guest is Ryan McKinnon, who is a sergeant in charge of the SRO program, and we'll get back to Ryan in a second. We'll talk about your career.
And before you go any
Yes.
further, remember we don't use acronyms.
Thank you. It just slips right out, doesn't it?
I know it does because we're so used to using it.
Yeah.
But
So the school resource officer.
Yes.
Right? And I actually, coming from the East Coast, I speak 2 languages, so sometimes I put both languages in, so I try to remember that.
But I know that.
Yeah, exactly. So welcome. Sorry.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Ryan Boson is also one of our student resource officers. No, Scott. Well, what are you anyway? SROs, right?
I'm a motor.
He's a
owner.
motor.
Oh, you're a motor, Ryan.
Yes, he's
I beg
motors.
your pardon. I asked you what schools you had earlier. You gave me 3 schools.
Well, because I have 3 schools.
And
in
you have
Because
three
he's,
schools
he's,
as a
he's
motor.
in
It's
the
a motor.
motoring.
And as a
yeah.
motor, that's a traffic officer.
Right.
And quite frankly, very, very important to us this time of year because a lot of the
Exactly.
issues involve traffic around the schools. It's
Right.
throughout the community, of course,
Right.
but around the schools. And so welcome. I didn't know
Yes.
that. I see the
Yes.
wings, and I thought maybe it was just a prior assignment. So
Yeah.
good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Todd?
That's fine.
No, Dryford, but make sure I know if it's doctor or not.
No, no.
Okay, so welcome, sir. It's such a pleasure having you
Thank you.
here. You're the interim
Yes, principal.
principal at
Chaparral
High School,
Yes.
which is down off of Gold Dust and Shea area.
Yes.
For those viewers who may not know where the school is located. So it's great having you here today. Thank you so much. We're going to get back to you just in a second and talk about school issues, but it's always a pleasure to have someone from Scottsdale Unified School District with us, and we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you. Thanks. Brian, why don't you kind of tee this up a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your background and the position that you're in, and I know it's a relatively new position. And some things you've experienced in the short while you've been there.
Yeah, I've only actually been with the school resource unit for a month, so it is a new assignment for me. But I've been with the police department for 17 years. So I actually started as a civilian in 2001. I was a police aide. I did that for about 2 years. At that point, I went on to become a police officer. I went through our academy like all other police officers and did our field training. I was a patrol officer for about 3 years. After that, I was a member of our bike unit for about 3 years. You'll see a trend here in a second. Then I went to our domestic violence unit as an investigator.
Specialty unit, specialty.
Yeah.
it
For
is.
about
For about 3 years.
Yeah, that's the
3 years.
trend.
And
It's
then
a
I
good
went to,
time.
yeah, then I was a violent crimes detective for about 3 years. And then I promoted to a sergeant. So I did sergeant for a couple of years as a patrol sergeant, which is a sergeant that patrols the streets in a uniform in a car like the patrol officers, just supervising the patrol officers. And then last month I got selected for the school resource unit, and I'm
Just
real
last
excited.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Lieutenant O'Mara
O'Mara?
got promoted.
Yes.
Yeah.
So not to interrupt your train of thought, but I do want to say this because occasionally we should use this platform as an opportunity to recruit young people into law enforcement. And so people that are looking for careers that don't want to do the same thing, for
Perfect
20
example.
years,
Yep.
25 years.
There you go.
That's the beauty about law enforcement
Yep.
is you have opportunities to do different kinds of assignments. So it's almost a totally
Yep.
new experience, and you've done it every 3 years.
Yeah,
And I
and it
know
really
lots of
was.
others have do it every 2 years
Yeah.
and maybe 4, but certainly that's a great kind of, as much
Very
as you made fun of
well-rounded.
yourself for not
Yeah.
keeping a job,
Yeah.
the reality is that's the benefit of being in law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And it really, you talk, as a bicycle officer, I was riding a bicycle, patrolling downtown. I go from that to investigating domestic violence. So they're very different roles,
Yes.
but the same job.
Right.
So it's a great way to reinvent yourself every few years, and that's what I enjoy about the job. It keeps your interest going.
Thanks for giving me the
Absolutely.
opportunity to do that plug.
Yeah.
So it's a new job just the last month.
Yep.
I don't know if there's been any other turnover in terms of SRO assignments, but for the most
No.
part, we've been pretty steady with
Yeah,
our
we
assignments.
have a very senior group of SRO officers, the school resource officers. Many of them been doing it for 8 or 10 years. Our newest ones are probably been doing it for, I think this is their 3rd year. So we have a senior group that's been in the schools for a long time, and that's just the school assignment. Obviously, these are these are officers. They're not. We refer to them as school resource officers, but they're they are a police officer like anything else. So they're the same officer you see driving a patrol car around.
They're just assigned
They're
to
not
the
any
school.
different. Yeah. So a lot of them they've all been patrol officers. A lot of them have had special assignments like narcotics investigators or persons crimes investigators, or have a variety of experience that they've had. But at some point they elected to go to the school resource unit, and they tested, and they became eligible and were selected for that position. So
Yeah, and we have 2 school systems, Scottsdale Unified School District and also the Cave Creek Unified School District that we supply SROs to.
yes, that's correct. We have a total of 10 officers, and we cover 25 schools between the high schools, the middle schools, and the elementary schools.
It's a lot.
That's
It's
a
a
lot.
busy day for
Yes,
them.
and they're very busy. They work 5 days a week, and they're busy from the time, actually before school starts to after school gets out.
Absolutely.
So what kinds of activities are SROs involved in?
So most of them start their day doing, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, but traffic control, because we do have a lot of traffic concerns in and around the schools, trying to get the kids to school and away from, back home safely. And so a lot of them will spend their time out there trying to get the parents and students into the parking lot and into the classroom safely. And then from there, it just depends on the day. They have a wide variety of roles and responsibilities. They do a lot of teaching in the schools, and not like a teacher would, but they teach what we call law enforcement related education. So it may be anti-bullying, it may be the dangers of drugs and alcohol, it may be safe use of social media, which is a big one right now.
Yes, that's a big one.
So they'll do those types of classes. They're also a law enforcement officer, like we talked about, so they'll do investigations that occur at the school or related to these students. So if a crime occurs on the grounds or at a ball game or something like that, they'll be the lead investigator for that, and they'll do the follow-up and interviews related to that.
And I'm sorry, very involved in safety, of course, not
Yes.
just within the schools, but safety is within the neighborhoods.
Yes, absolutely. And they often, I was just out with one of our officers this morning doing follow-up at a house, because there was an incident over the weekend with one of the students, so he wanted to go follow up at the home to make sure everything was okay.
That's great.
So it's more than just being in the school. It's not a security guard in a booth that's just checking people in and out. They're actively involved in all aspects of the
And I'm
students.
sure that I know because I've worked with the SROs a lot, but it's more than just a law enforcement.
Yes.
It is a counselor, a friend,
Yep.
a role model,
Mhm.
a parent sometimes.
Problem solver.
A
Problem
problem
solver,
solver, a good listener. So they are really quite involved with the students
Yes.
and building a rapport of trust and
Absolutely.
things like that. So it's more than just law enforcement and enforcing laws.
Yeah.
So.
And the SROs, the school resource officers, genuinely care about the kids. And you can tell that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You can care about some of the letters we get back, and the impact that these officers have had on kids' lives is really amazing.
Right,
So
making
they
to
do a
make
great
right
job.
choices. Absolutely.
I think that's great information because I think a lot of folks in the public think that SROs are just that, security guards that are in the schools, make sure that
Yeah, they
people
just
coming and
walk
going,
around
right?
and look in there.
Yeah, it's
They do
much
more than
much
that.
more than
Yeah,
much more than that.
definitely.
Both law enforcement responsibility is much more than that, but also being a member of the school community is
Right.
important.
Yep.
So.
And plus working hand in hand with the staff and the
Yes.
faculty and kind of addressing some of the faculty issues, because obviously those are two separate entities
Yep.
with two separate different goals, and trying to mix that together as well. And I'm sure the principal will explain some of that as well.
Yeah, and we've been fortunate. We have great relationships with our administrators and work very well with them. Different roles, like you said, but we all want safety, we all want security, we all want the health and benefit of the kids, and to create a good learning atmosphere for them.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll talk about more issues facing the schools before we talk to the schools, but I think the big issue is probably traffic in and around the schools, either before and after school, or even maybe perhaps even during school. I don't know what the rules are. We'll get to
Especially
that.
if they're leaving for lunch
Well,
and
I don't
everything,
know
which is
again.
a crazy part. I
Yeah.
remember a long time ago when I used to leave, it was bad.
And
That's
you
when a lot of stuff
I
happens.
think you went because it was illegal for us to leave the schools at lunchtime.
No,
but maybe it's
my
opened
school
up a
was
little
cool.
bit.
I could
Oh,
I could
man.
leave for lunch when I was a senior.
Oh, you can't leave.
can't leave
see?
anymore. Okay.
You know what? Seriously, I
That's
didn't know
good.
that because
Yeah.
I thought that all changed. Everybody
That
gets to
is
leave, free
good.
choice of lunch or something. But,
Right.
But
Rush back.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. Yeah, if Rush is right. Let's talk a little bit about traffic around the schools. That is a big issue. This time of year, my office gets inundated, as well as the council and the mayor's office gets inundated with letters about concerns about traffic. And I always teed up this way, saying, you know, we have large populations at many of our schools, and you think that, and some schools, quite a few parents choose to drive their students instead of using
Buses, too.
buses.
I have them around.
Other schools have students that are driving as well, and so you've got all those drivers coming at one time in one location, and generally in a residential neighborhood. And so traffic is a huge concern. So Ryan, I suspect you've got quite a few experiences. You have 3 schools, and are they elementary schools, middle schools, or high schools, or all 3?
I have 2 middle schools and 1 elementary school.
Okay. Before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself, so folks at home will know a little bit about you.
I've been on the department for about 9 years now. I was on patrol for 7 of those years. I worked weekends, day squad for most of it. I got assigned to the traffic enforcement section on the motorcycle for the last 2 years, a little over 2 years.
So when people see a motorcycle officer, they mostly
Slam on the brakes.
Well,
No.
that too. Me too, by the way. You don't know how popular you are. So, but when people see a motorcycle officer, they just think in terms of traffic tickets, writing traffic tickets. I know you do a lot more than that. So
We do.
maybe you can explain a little bit about your duties and responsibilities in that role.
So our role is mainly traffic, but we do have other roles. So we do work with the SROs or the school resource officers and patrol with problems, citizen complaints of traffic-related issues, concerns, parking, that type of stuff within the city. We also handle impaired driver investigations. We handle the citizen complaints that come through your office, through the mayor's office, gets transferred down to us, and we go out and call the citizen, talk to the citizen, figure out what their complaint is. Once we get all of that, we'll go and enforce or go educate, whatever we need to do, try to figure out a problem or a solution for the problem within that area. We also will inspect commercial motor vehicles. We actually go to the schools and we do presentations at the school. We go to their public safety days, let the kids sit on motorcycles, just explain everything to the kids, what we do. We let them look at all of our equipment and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the important things for people to realize is that you do as much education as you do citing, which is huge. And that you solve problems. And so whenever our office gets a complaint or the mayor's office gets a complaint or council members and they forward it to me, we immediately forward it out to someone who will actually look into it. And so it doesn't fall on deaf ears. People may not see what you're doing if they didn't give their name or contact information, or you tried to contact them and you couldn't. They may not see the fact that we send somebody out, but we send somebody out, I think it's 100% of the time, looks at that issue to see whether or not we can do something to resolve that. Sometimes they find it's not an issue, but if they need it resolved, then we put the effort forward to do that. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So what are you seeing in the school year this year? What can you tell parents and drivers to do and be cautious of as they go to schools?
Well, like you were saying before, leave more time. I'm seeing a lot of parents that are rushing to school, and students too that can drive now. They're speeding through the school zones. Like this morning, I was at Cheyenne Traditional School, and I had a lot of parents that were late, so they were just stopping in the middle of the road and dropping off their children.
Very dangerous.
Correct. children running in traffic trying to get to school because school bell is ringing. A lot of issues with parking along our schools, especially in the afternoons when they're going to pick up their children, that they just go and park in residential areas that are posted no parking. They'll block driveways. So I just need to leave a little bit more time, get there, and then figure it out. And then
I started something with my
Obey
wife.
the signs.
I was
Correct.
started with my wife, and she'd kill me if she doesn't watch the program, fortunately.
I'm calling her.
So I would tell her, like, I had to be someplace like a half an hour earlier than we really had to leave, right? So we leave, and then she called me and says, we got to be there this time, or is it half an hour from now? So we just tell people the school starts a half an hour earlier, and the kids will always be there on time. We're making a huge mistake here. Anyway,
yes.
And then that school zones are absolute 15.
Yes.
From the
Yes.
first stop sign to for the first notification of the sign to the second notification of the sign, absolute 15. No passing either. That means you can't pass in the right lane or the left lane because a kid you might not see running across the street. So those are absolutes, and you will definitely get a ticket.
yeah, that's
And when
a
you
pretty
were
serious
saying
violation.
signs, most drivers don't realize that it's the first 15 miles per hour sign as you come up to it. As you're entering into the school zone, that sign you have to be at 15 and no more. You can be less, but no more. Through the crosswalk. So that second sign is the stop when children are in crosswalk. That's your second sign. After that second sign, you may proceed up to the normal speed limit after that sign.
Right.
Most drivers don't realize that. They go 15 all the way through the crosswalk and they continue 15 past to the other sign for the other drivers, and then they proceed. And we get a lot of complaints and a lot of road rage because of that, because everybody is trying to go faster, and then that one car is doing 15, and so.
Well, and everybody should be a little more patient because you never know when a kid's going to come past the signs. They don't look at signs, so you still should drive cautiously through that whole entire zone.
And we are using photo enforcement, whether it's either van or the new boxes that are out there in our school zones, certainly
And
this
those
time of
boxes move.
year. Not while they're
They
sitting
can
there. Oh,
move
yeah.
to different
To
areas.
different areas,
so
different
don't ever think
locations.
that, exactly.
Got it.
And we've
Yeah.
expanded some schools this year as well. So there's
Good.
some photo enforcement schools that didn't have it traditionally.
Okay, good,
Good.
good.
We won't tell you which ones those are.
Not even me? Anyway, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Todd, again, thank you for being here. So you are at a high school,
Yes.
which probably has its own unique issues in terms of driving, of
Yes,
course,
it
because
does.
again, young folks are driving as well. What are the rules?
Basically, slow down, have patience.
Okay. But in terms of age, a 16-year-old can drive
Yes,
to school and
16-year-old
get a
can
license? I
drive,
mean, get a
yes.
parking space?
Yes.
Okay.
Normally, they start off with the seniors and
Okay.
kind of work their way down from there.
So
But,
there's enough for everybody.
If not, you're going to park on. No, there is not enough for
Okay.
everybody. If not, you're going to park on the street, or there's a church right down the street from Chaparral High School, or people
And
can
they
park.
allow that?
Yes.
The church does?
Yes.
I suspect some neighborhoods, Dennis, that want you parking in their neighborhoods during school days, but the kids are doing it, I suspect.
As far as I know, yes.
Which transfers some of that driving and dangers thereof to the actual neighborhoods.
Yes.
Which is concerning. So we talk about people coming between parked cars, or opening car doors in the middle of
Exactly.
a small side street could cause all kinds of issues. So that's additional concerns as well. Tell us how the school year is going. I know we've been there for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, so far so good. First thing I'd like to make a shout out to the bike patrol. They helped us the other night at our football game. Did an outstanding job. We had playing Desert Mountain, and the place was packed, and they did a great job monitoring the crowd, helped us getting the crowd out, monitoring the parking lot. Did a great job for us. And then our SRO, Devin Lyons, is doing a great job for us.
Thank you.
Shows work every day, smile on his face, works with kids. But by and large, school year is going great so far,
Good,
so no
good.
complaints.
You know, when you said football, I heard the band in my head. I could smell the hot dogs. It's like it just brings back some great memories and great times. And kids and parents alike should really enjoy this time of year without worry. In terms of safety or driving issues, they should enjoy themselves, and that sounds great. A little bit about your background. How did you came into this position?
Well, I came from Wichita, Kansas, or the Wichita, Kansas area. I've been there pretty much my entire life. Had the opportunity to apply for the job out here. My daughter is a senior at Chaparral High School. I applied for it, got lucky enough to get the job. Had to get her permission first before I moved down here.
I was going to say, how does she feel about that?
Yeah, exactly. But she gave me the okay, and everything's gone great so far. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
Oh, wonderful. So you're relatively new to this too, then?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I've been in high schools for 25 years, but in terms of being here in Scottsdale,
here.
yes.
Okay,
yes,
new
brand
assignment.
Yeah.
And is it the same like in Kansas? Did you say Kansas? Right?
Yes, Wichita.
Is it this Wichita? Is it the same? Like, do we have the same kind of involvement that you have with and partnerships with law enforcement
Yes,
that you
yes.
did
All
there?
the schools that I've been a part of have had school resource officers, so it's a great program.
Right.
Well, we're excited to have you in the
Thank you.
community. It's great. It's the partnership that we're mostly interested in terms of making sure that we're not, we're very much a part of the education system and not a barrier to education
correct.
and access to services within the school.
I think
So,
the parents need to know that the officers are not there to catch kids
Right.
doing something. They're to assist kids and help
Right.
them out.
right. And I think that's really sort of the hallmark of this particular community, because that's what I've heard for so many years. The program has had, in the time I've been here, and I've been here now almost 17 years, there's been very few instances where we found ourselves, pushing or involved in something in the community that the community didn't fully support. It's always been that kind of partnership and understanding, and so that's really a great benefit of our community, I believe.
And
so.
we are lucky to have such great partnerships within the schools, within our businesses, within our neighborhoods. Because, as you know, when you see stories from across the country, if there is tension between a community and its police force, everybody's not happy. And so we like the harmony, and we try very hard to make sure that the harmony between our department and our outreach is there, and that we listen. And you guys know, you guys do this every day with people, talk to parents, talk to drivers that are going to get a ticket and try to explain to them to slow down. But our main goal is just to be customer oriented and give good customer service. Comes from the top.
No, appreciate that, but we don't want the first time a young person interacts with a police officer to be for all the wrong reasons. We want there to be a relationship, so if there is an interaction that's less than pleasant, there's respect on both sides, and that's what's important to us. And the school system traditionally has been a wonderful partner in that, so having you on board is terrific. Hopefully you come into a system where you feel that we really do walk the talk.
No,
And that-
everything's been great with
Yeah.
working with the PD and everybody else. It's been awesome.
Great, and open those lines of communications if you need to.
So what are the big events? Like, is it like homecoming? Can we talk a little bit about homecoming, Sarge? Or the principal to kind of tell us some of the issues that you face in school, and that what would you like to tell the parents so they know? Because that's kind of coming up now, isn't it? Homecoming and some
Yes,
of those other
for
things.
us it'll be September 21st. So we're
Already?
going to have our
Wow.
first homecoming event.
And some of the issues or some of the concerns that school has about stuff like this that we can be proactive in.
All I could ask for parents is to know what your children are doing. Be proactive. Go out in their cars, see if there's anything that shouldn't be in there. Monitor where they go, ask where they go, track them if you have the availability to track them, but also rely upon the school resource officers to assist when necessary. Again, we're not out there to catch anybody. I know the PD is not. They're there to assist and make sure everybody is safe. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact school resource officer. He'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
Great.
I'm glad you said that. That is so important. I really do think that parents should realize that they have access to school resource officers, just as they have access to a school counselor or anyone else in the system that's there to provide services. And that communication is just critical. I know that when I wasn't quite an SRO, but I did school liaison work back east. Some parents didn't know each other, so they had no idea who their friends' parents were, who their children's friends' parents were. Get that out. And they just were like oblivious to what was going on. They only got their information through their own children. And I'm not suggesting they follow around or check on them, but maybe I am. I am suggesting they develop those relationships. And certainly SROs are just as much a resource to the community as they are to the school itself.
Right.
And parents should feel very comfortable saying, I just want to meet the SRO and talk about things and feel comfortable. And you said yes, and we do that all the time,
Well,
but
we
sometimes
have-
parents feel they need permission, which is crazy.
We've done PTO presentations. We've done presentations to just other parent groups or anyone that has asked about some of the things we're talking about before. The same presentations we get to kids. So, anti-bullying, safe use of social media, dangers of drugs and alcohol, and that's, in fact, we actually have a presentation we've done in the past before prom for the kids, just to remind them, look, these are the dangers. Make these
Don't be a
decisions.
statistic.
Yes, the school does a
Yes.
good job of having an organized event, and usually when they get in trouble is when they go outside of that organized event, and the parents many times have no idea.
Right.
So we try and do some education ahead of time, saying, look, if you make these choices, these are the consequences, and these are the dangers of those.
And if they have questions, they want to contact somebody personally, you're available to them.
Yeah,
Right.
for parents
we
as well
did-
as the students.
I'm sorry, what we didn't talk about was distracted driving, because at this point there is no law necessarily in the city of Scottsdale, but you can cross a jurisdiction, there's a law in the next jurisdiction, and then there isn't a law in the jurisdiction beyond that. It's a little crazy that everybody sort of has their own rules, but
texting.
regardless whether you have your own rules or not, texting and while you're driving is taking your eyes off the road and your concentration away from driving. And it's just been, it can be a huge hazard for us. I know we did some education and training in the past, especially in the high school setting, about that very issue. So I don't know if you're seeing a lot more or a lot less in terms of accidents and activity as a result of that, but I imagine it's pretty concerning.
Yeah, so when we sit in our school zones and enforce the traffic laws, I'm seeing a lot more parents that are looking down on their cell phones. The other day I stopped an individual that was reading an email and decided to go 35 through a school zone because he
Wow.
was reading that email. So we're seeing a lot more of the distracted driving.
Right, not only
because
kids
of the
but
phones
adults
and-
as well.
Yes.
And both the motors and the SRO come through Citizens Academy, so you would get like a whole hour of each of instruction and some information about it. So keep that in mind as far as attending the Citizens Academy, because these are two examples of some of the instructors that we have come through class.
Yeah, it's a good exposure. But again, what I found just fascinating was I'm sort of talking about students and experienced drivers, and you just told me there's somebody out there that's a parent doing 35 in a school zone because they're reading an email, which is longer than just a simple see you later. It's obviously something that they had to be concentrating on and reading. So that's scary stuff.
It's very scary
Worst
stuff.
place to do it is probably around a school.
Yes.
And how tragic that would be, and how would you live with yourself afterwards? It'll wait. You can't do anything about it anyway. You're in a school zone.
What did we
It'll
do
wait.
before we had
Yeah.
cell phones? Remember, you'd have to wait to get to a phone, and then you'd have to have a quarter. Well, for me, my age, I'd have to have a quarter to put it in the
Yeah,
phone.
I just need a nickel.
So all those times are so gone. It's like so weird.
And then before me was a long string with
Yeah,
a cup.
yeah. The thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, right. Well, I just want to say thank you
Thank
to
you
you
guys
all.
so
It's
much.
great having you here. It's always a great reminder this time of year. Welcome to the newbies on the block, both of you, and hopefully you'll be here for quite some time. You'll love the area. I know she's going to be in high school. She's a senior, right?
She is,
Just
yeah.
1 year,
That's
so
right.
you're going to stick around a little while longer.
I
I
would
hope.
hope.
I hope so too. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
For being
Thank
here.
you, guys.
Boys, thank you so much for all you do to keep the community safe and the folks you represent. And we'll talk to you guys soon, I hope. That does it.
Another show. Wrap. Till next month.
Till next month, we're going to offer the whole set on DVD shortly.
Yes, yeah.
High definition. Anyway, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. We will see you next month. Until then, be safe. Thank you all. Bye-bye.